Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Chris Golden, and I'm a project manager for Skanska USA Civil here in Los Angeles, California. Recently, I was part of a team to provide a much needed $4 billion upgrade to New York City's LaGuardia Airport. I spent the last 6 years on that project, and early on, I led an effort to improve safety through design. I would like to just quickly share some key lessons learned that I took away from my effort working on a very large and complex design build project. When I think back to our design phase and the start of our journey, what stands out most is recognizing that we still have a very, very long way to go. I mention this because for any of you who are early in your prevention through design efforts, this is what I think is most critical for reducing the learning curve with your project team and to give yourself the best shot at success. It will definitely require some spoon feeding. I started my prevention through design journey years ago by evaluating OSHA compliance and safety risk of facilities once they reached construction substantial completion. And of course, there's the classic chart that shows how the cost of making changes to a project increases over time. Well, we were making incredibly expensive changes to the project at the peak of that chart. I'd like to begin first by discussing the importance of setting clear expectations early. It goes without saying that the earlier you're able to start designing for safety, the better. Designing for safety needs to begin at concept design, and at least for setting the expectations for what outcomes you're expecting from each stage of the design phase. Recognize that in a design build situation, design schedules are typically super aggressive, and if you're aren't able to establish a process up front, it will be very difficult and probably expensive to correct course down the road. Where possible, establish standards for safe design criteria. This would typically center around standardizing process or product selection and embedding those items into the design, into the standard detailed design or contract specifications. Just as many owners or developers are likely to establish specific requirements for preferred, let's say, an electrical or mechanical system, the same can apply for predetermined safety controls for a facility or operation's most commonly encountered risks. The more you're able to standardize safety controls into your design requirements, the less time and resources will need to be spent identifying and monitoring those risks throughout the remainder of the project. Next, you must educate your stakeholders. It's been my experience that as an industry, we're still in prevention through design 101. I've found that it's more important to spend time educating our design professionals on what and why, what is safety in design and why is it needed, and less time spent on how, as in how is the project going to exactly go about managing designing for safety and prevention through design efforts. This is especially true when you're competing against that schedule constraint of an aggressive design schedule. Um, Design professionals are creative and imaginative people. The more you help them understand the problem and understand the need for engineered solutions and engineered approaches to risk reduction, the more they'll embrace the intent of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Um, I recommend that you really cast a wide net in your training efforts. Keep in mind that this education effort has to permeate throughout the entire design organization and be maintained continually throughout the project. It's not just the design phase. It's been my experience that the designers that you're engaging with to review concepts and do page turn reviews are not likely to be the ones actually doing the drafting. And it's even less likely that the designers who drafted the plans are the ones who will be reviewing submittals, shop drawings, material substitutions, etc. However, this is the level of design coordination where decisions are most likely to have the biggest impact on the builder or the end user. Lastly, engage the end user. The end user interface is obviously where the exposure will occur. What sounds so basic and fundamental, though, is actually probably what I've found to be the most difficult aspect of this process to implement. you're extremely unlikely to have custodial or building maintenance staff in a design charrette that will likely take place years before an asset is put into service. So I recommend that you specifically plan for how you're going to promote end user engagement, um, connect with end users and design professionals in their work setting, go out to the field and take a look at the operation, the steps to the work that they perform, and most importantly, just have candid conversations with end users on how to make their jobs easier and more efficient, and of course, most importantly, safer. Thanks again for joining us today. I look forward to continuing our conversation during the panel discussion. Thank you.